part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantabulous producer. Fantastic, fabulous, fantabulous. You get it. His name is Ty Courts. He's making sure all of you out there in the podcatosphere get to hear us on a regular basis. And Michael Reghi, the last time we got together with the R&R pod, we were talking about, well, next time we get together, we'll see if the Guardians did anything at the trade deadline, which was 6 p.m. today as we're taping this on August 1st. And boy, were they busy. I think Chris Antonetti's cousin is Monty Hall because he played Let's Make a Deal with the Dodgers for Ahmed Rosario, with the Rays for Aaron Savali, and thank goodness, here's what I equate this to, Michael Reghi. He was able to trade Josh Bell to the Miami Marlins, and I'm going to put this one up there with Jim Paxson being able to trade a fat Sean Kemp to the Portland Trailblazers back in the day. I didn't think he'd be able to do that then, and I didn't think they'd be able to trade Josh Bell, but kudos to Chris Antonetti for getting rid of Josh Bell, addition by subtraction.
Damn, that's quite a comparison there. Going back to Jim Paxson dealing Sean Kemp.
I play for the logo, Reghi.
Yeah,
I play for the logo.
I heard that a few times. I could hear all the enthusiastic joy all the way from your WHBC studios in Canton when it was determined that Josh Bell was jettisoned from the Cleveland Guardians and no longer on this baseball team. So I know that makes you happy. And look, man, I mean, you called it addition by subtraction. I tell you what, Ken, they had to do that. Can you imagine because there was no way in hell that Josh Bell was going to not re-up for 2024. And turn down the $16.5 million that the Guardians rather would owe him for next year.
Right.
So, I mean, they have to be doing a lot of joyous dancing too down at the ballpark with Bell deciding that I'm gonna opt out and see where it takes me. I don't know where it's going to take him, Kenny, but I know he's going to need a big time second half to earn that kind of money next year. Once again.
Boy, yeah. Here's the thing that I look at, Reg. All right, I have mixed emotions about these moves, and here's why. I give them credit for jettisoning Zunino early in the year, right? Trading Bell here and Rosario, who wasn't going to be in their future plans at the end of this season when he was a free agent, right? So I give them credit for that, not holding on to free agent Zunino and Bell too long and being willing to eat whatever Zunino would have been owed the rest of that season or this season. And then, when they trade Josh Bell for Jean Segura, and Khalil Watson, okay? And rumor is...
was he a right winger for the Montreal Canadiens?
He was. He played with Guy Lafleur back in the day. Absolutely.
I thought so.
Supposedly they're just going to cut Segura, okay? And eat the rest of his contract, which is less than what they would have had to pay Josh Bell next year, okay? So I give them credit for all of that, but here's where I'm angry at the front office. Why can't they evaluate hitting talent, Michael? They're in this situation because the two free agents they elected to spend about $22 million on stunk this year. They were horrible signings. They had to cut Zunino. They were lucky to trade Josh Bell. So what is it where this organization, when it comes to starting pitching, hey, they can draft it, they can trade for it, they can develop it. But when it comes to hitting, they can't trade for it, they can't draft it, and they can't develop it. That concerns me as I look at these moves that had to be made, but again, were made because they were horrible in the offseason with free agency.
It's quite the odyssey, Ken. There's no question about that, because as you just aptly pointed out, the pitching side of things, And this organization does it right. Everything seems to be a big time A plus. And on the other side of it, Ken, we give Chernoff and Antonetti, you and I both, all kinds of due credit.
Yep.
We have forever.
Yep.
Well, fellas, Zunino and Bell, you guys struck out times 100 in the free agency department last year.
Whew.
And you might say, okay, well, again, they've been so good. Yes, they have. But for an organization like the Cleveland Guardians, Ken, as we know, you can't afford to have these kind of failures when you go to free agency. And this is a huge albatross, these two. Mike Zunino and Josh Bell, my God, they gave you nothing. And these are your two big free agent alleged plums of last offseason.
Right.
Nah, it's a bad look. It's a bad look for them. And again, we've given them their credit. We've given them their credit a million times over, and they've deserved it. Well, this one, they've come up really yakking on it. And I just wonder, Kenny, how long this is going to hurt and what might the hurt ramifications be of this, because they don't develop hitting. They just don't develop hitters the way they do pitchers. So we're going to have to find out. It's the reason, bottom line, the reason why they go out in free agency and try to get a couple of bats like that. And that came up snake eyes. Now what, Kenny Roda? Now what with this organization?
Yeah, I don't know, Michael. It's a great question. They save money with this Josh Bell trade. All right. I'm trying to do the math while we're taping this podcast here. And don't hold me to this, people, but I think I'm in the ballpark on this. What they'll owe Segura, however you pronounce it, doesn't matter. He's gone already. They'll owe him $12 million for the rest of this year, whatever his contract was for next year, and a $2 million buyout. Okay. So that's $12 million that they'll owe him. But if they were forced to keep Josh Bell, they would have had to pay him roughly 19.2. So they're saving about $7 million overall, it looks like, with this trade. And so that from, they like to save money. They have to save money, they tell us. Who knows if they're going to get paid by Bally's the rest of this year with their TV contract. So maybe, whatever. So they're saving money there. So that trade, I give them an A+ for trading Josh Bell for, I don't know who Khalil Watson is. He's an infielder prospect. I have no idea. Segura's 33. They're going to cut him. So fine. Addition by subtraction. The other moves, though, I want to get your thoughts on Rosario for Syndergaard, and then Savale. That's the one that surprised me, that they would make a move with Aaron Savale, who was their best pitcher this year. Once he came off the injured list with that oblique injury. I was surprised that with 2 years of arbitration left on his contract, they usually like to hold on to those guys. They traded him. Now, they got Kyle Manzardo. Do you have any info at all on the Rays first baseman that's coming here? And all of a sudden, Reg, he moves into the number 3 top prospect in the Guardians organization.
Kenny, the only thing I have, and the few people that I talk to, and not from the Rays organization, and other organizations around baseball,
right?
They like him. They believe. I had one guy tell me he's a top 40 prospect.
Okay. All right.
Another guy said top 50. So both, though, saying that they believe this young man has a future in being a major league hitter with some volume to him.
Okay.
Now, he's not real good defensively, Ken.
Yeah.
He's at first base. Well, what about trying to put him in the outfield? Well, because I was told, Reggie, he can't play the outfield.
Oh, that's not good.
You at your age, I was told, may be able to cover more ground than he does. Well, that's a little scary then in and of itself, because I don't run too well anymore, Ken. But the point is that I don't know. So he's going to have to hit a ton, man. Is he not? You're going to be the first base or DH. And again, there are people that really like his bat and that feel like can be a plus major league hitter that can hit you 275, 280 with a little bit of thump to it and drive in runs.
Okay.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, they got to have that because if not, I mean, once again, this organization and their failures with trying to develop hitting is markedly bad. So they're going to need him to really and Kenny, I got to believe that. I don't know. One guy told me though that one of the baseball people told me he thought that next year he would play the entire year in Columbus at AAA. I had the other baseball person from another American League franchise that said, "Nah, I think he'll be up and in that lineup every day next year." So we'll have to see how that goes. I don't think the Indians have really made us Guardians, have really made any kind of statement about that as of yet. I'm going to let them get acclimated and see where it goes. But Ken, as quickly as possible, right? As quickly as possible do you get him here and start him swinging the bat and hope it's a productive bat at that.
Looked at his numbers last season. Batted .327, 22 homers, 81 RBIs between single A and double A. Moved up to triple A this year with the Durham Bulls. I don't know if Crash Davis is still on the team or not. Maybe he can give him some pointers on hitting home runs if he is. 73 games triple A this year. 238, 11 homers, 38 RBIs, but he's got a shoulder injury, and thus he is still on the disabled list. But the one thing that you said that is dead on after listening to Chris Antonetti speak about him, and you can read between the lines, when asked about him defensively, he said he's an average first baseman on defense. So that is not good. That's being kind from what you're telling me and what I read as well. So they give up a starting pitcher. Granted, I'm not going to lose sleep, over Savali. He was terrible in the playoffs last year. No way Tito should have started him against the Yankees in Game 5. One of the major blunders by Tito in his managerial time here in Cleveland. But as of late, he's been good. But as my partner on the radio at WHBC, JT, pointed out to me, he said, look who he's pitched well against this year. It's either been the White Sox, the Pirates, or the Royals, right? Let's see how he does against some of the better teams, especially in the Eastern or the East now in the American League, where Tampa's trying to win the division. And if not, then, battle for a wild card spot. So Savale, I won't get to sing Savale, whoa, Savale, so long. I won't get to sing that anymore, but that'll be okay if Mr. Maserati, as I like to call him, Kyle Manzardo, comes through and gets in the everyday lineup. Syndergaard is interesting, Reg. 1-year deal. So at the end of this year, they can walk away from him, or maybe they can bring him back. Pitched well last night in his first game as a Guardian, 5 1/3 innings, and was strolling along, leading 2-1 till he took a one hopper or a liner, whatever it was, off his calf and had to leave, and then the bullpen imploded. Your thoughts on what was supposed to be, when he was younger, a top prospect pitcher-wise, Noah Syndergaard?
Yeah. Before we get to that, when Kyle Manzardo goes to Durham, the hell with Crash Davis, get him with Annie Savoy. How about that? Let's get him.
She can have him breathing through his eyelids, wearing lingerie.
All that, just like she did for Nuke LaLoosh.
That's right. Screw Crash Davis. Get Annie on him, man.
Get Annie ready to roll in Durham again when young Kyle goes down there to become a Bull.
There you go.
Maybe that's the better way to go. Noah Syndergaard, huh?
Yeah.
Kenny, back in it hadn't been that long ago. I mean, the guy is still not even 30 years old, but man, when he came up with one of those Mets youngsters on the mound, I mean, this guy was the real deal, and really on what everybody thought was going to be a quick road to be a big time starter in a major league starting pitching staff. So he had his first couple of years very good, and from that point on, it hasn't been as winning and as productive. And let's hope that. I don't know, Kenny. Can Carl Willis be of resurrectory help here? What do you think? I mean, can Willis get him back to the way he was those first couple of years with the Mets when he was dealing and winning a lot of baseball games?
That's the hope, right? At least for the rest of this season. You don't know if you're keeping him, but if you can resurrect him, 5-6 more starts the rest of this year if that calf isn't injured, right? That's the dream. That's the hope. And they have a better chance of doing that than resurrecting anybody's hitting career that we've seen since they've swapped the hitting instructors and that. They've gone from, bad to okay, back to bad, and can't hit the ball out of the ballpark. So let's hope that they can get something out of Syndergaard. And who knows if we're going to see Cal Quantrill, Shane Bieber, or Tristan McKenzie this season again. If I'm Tito, I'm not counting on any of those guys coming back based on the reports I'm getting right now.
It's hard to. I mean, it would be kind of foolish to say that you are. And Kenny, that having been said, there's an American League Central that can be won. I mean, I know for what it's worth, but I mean, what the hell? If you're going to play baseball the next couple of months, and this is where you are in your division standings, then go ahead and get your damn butts in the playoffs then. I mean, right? I mean, that's what it's here. And the organization would like that, Kenny, because every home game, man, that the turnstiles go cha-ching, cha-ching, and that's millions and millions of more every time the Guardians would have a home game. So, hey, listen, they're going to try to put themselves in position for that. I don't know if the pitching's going to hold up. You just went through that. And the hitters, hell, who knows from day to day? Who knows from day to day what they're going to give you? We've seen a couple of outbursts with 8 and 10 runs. And, of course, yet this is a team that offensively is 3 runs or less more often than not. So you just don't know from one day to the next. I mean, they're getting shut out again here in the 5th inning to now. Again, it's Houston, it's Framber Valdez, but this is what the Guardians' offense is or isn't, for lack of a better term.
Reg, they're not only getting shut out, they've been no hit through 5 innings as we tape.
Oh, they don't have a knock yet either?
They do not have a base knock with the lineup of Quan, Freeman, Ramirez, Gonzalez, Fry, Brennan, Arias, Straw, and Gallagher. Let me get your thought real quick, because I went off on Tito today. Yeah. Bases loaded yesterday, down 7-2, top of the 9th inning. He lets Miles Straw bat right there. He's got Gonzalez on the bench. He's got Fry on the bench. He's got Freeman on the bench. Gonzalez, since he got called up, 2 for 7 with a walk, on base 3 times. The other guys are hitting 270 or 280, and you had Straw in a 3 for 24 slump, batting 236 yesterday. I didn't make much sense to me. No. And Tito, Zach Meisel asked him after the game about it, and he kind of, I don't want to say challenged Zach on it, and Zach held his ground. I didn't understand that last night at all.
Hell, Kenny, I don't understand it every afternoon about 4 o'clock when the man writes out his lineup card. Yeah. You can't tell me is it the Cleveland Guardians as an organization, or is it more, as you just said, the skipper? Is it Terry Francona? What is this infatuation with Miles Straw?
Don't know.
I don't even think he's an average major league outfielder, to be honest with you. And don't tell me all about the way he goes and runs balls down. Yeah. You gotta have a man that can swing the bat, man. Yeah. If you're gonna play him 160 damn games a year, you gotta swing the bat. He don't swing the bat. He's not hitting well average wise this year, and the power is virtually it's minus. It's nil. There is no production from a power standpoint.
He's got the Blutarski, has no grade point average, right? Has no home runs in 2 years. You and I have the same amount of home runs as Miles Straw does over the last 2 years, and we haven't even swung a bat in the big leagues. That's how bad he is. So
I just don't understand how you keep writing his name in the lineup every day. I really don't, and that's and I'm glad that Francona was challenged a little bit on that. He needs to be challenged on that, because you got to give I don't give a damn who the hell you got Gonzalez back up now. Let Oscar Gonzalez swing the bat 4 times every day.
Absolutely.
Give Will Brennan some swings. He can play center field. You cannot continue. If you're serious, Cliff, you cannot continue to write Miles Straw's name in the starting lineup every day. You just can't.
Reg, the way I use Miles Straw the rest of this year, my outfield is Quan in left, Brennan in center, Gonzalez in right, late inning replacement defensively. I move Straw to center and move Brennan back over to right the last 2 innings. That's the way, if you have a lead, that's how I would use him. I was hoping he would get traded today too, but that's okay. I'm not going to bitch too much because they did get rid of Josh Bell. So, we'll see. Hey, nobody wants to win this division. You and I joked about an under 500 record. Reg, the more I look at this, somebody with an under 500 record is going to win this damn division because nobody wants to.
That's a damn shame, too. I'm sorry. I mean, if somebody is under 500 and winds up winning this division, this is not a good look for MLB. It's just not. And but be that as it may, we'll see if the Guardians have enough to be the ones standing in the American League Central in that first week of October.
They better. I picked them to win and the Twins to finish second in one of my futures bets before the season started, Reggie. Right. So I'm being a little selfish as to why I want them to finish first and Minnesota finishing second to pay off a little bit for me. So we'll see what happens with them now that the trading deadline is come and gone. They trail the Twins by 1 game as we tape this podcast tonight. All right, let's do this, Reg. Let's get a break in right now here on the Reghi and Roda podcast brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. And when we come back, we've got to talk Cleveland Browns training camp. They're back home from West Virginia. Cleveland Browns are playing in the Pro Football Hall of Fame game this Thursday night against the New York Jets. We'll tell you who's going to be quarterbacking for both teams. And I want to get your thoughts on Joe Thomas going in as one of the members of the 2023 class for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll tackle that next on the R&R podcast.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park and Northfield Park. Brent Reitz and all of those fabulous people out there at Northfield. It's your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world, with action starting at around noon. Plus, enter to play the free handicapping contest every Sunday for a chance to win some cash. Registration begins around 11 a.m. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. All right, Reg, this officially is week 1 of the NFL season, as preseason game number 1 will take place in Canton, Ohio, just down the road from where I do the Kenny and JT show at WHBC Radio. And we're looking forward to it. Big week for us, Hall of Fame week in the Hall of Fame city. The Browns had practice today after returning from West Virginia for 9 days, 8 practices. They'll have a walkthrough on Wednesday and then play on Thursday. What did you hear, if anything, Reg, about their trip to West Virginia and what they were able to accomplish?
I guess you kind of get the corporate line. It seemed like Kevin Stefanski, right, and Andrew Berry felt like they got a lot of strong work in, and they found out some things about mostly guys who are the backups on that two deep, that guys are playing for snaps, and they're going to get a lot of those backups, those 2s and 3s on the depth chart, and that's kind of what this early part of training camp is going to be about. Kenny, I don't know. I mean, to me, do the Browns, I guess they're going to want to get Deshaun Watson some snaps, I would think not a lot of them, but they're going to want him to get some snaps, I would think, in game competition coming up here later in the month of August. But Kenny, I really can't imagine you seeing a whole bunch, if any, of Nick Chubb, of Amari Cooper, of David Njoku, and I'm not even sure about that first number 1 offensive line either. I just don't think you're going to see a lot of those guys in this month of August. There really is no reason for that to be. So, I mean, once again, it's going to be getting ready for, when that bell rings in September, and see if the Browns can find a way to get out of the gate. Kenny, we say this every year, but man, it is so important. You and I know that, man. In those first 5 games, you got to be 3-2. You got to be above 500. It kind of sets the tone for who you are and what you want to be. Because if you're below that, I mean, you're playing from behind early on, and that's never a good thing, as we know, as then October turns into November in the National Football League.
Reg, I'm expecting the starters to play in game number 2 after talking with Daryl Ryder today from 92.3 The Fan on the Kenny and JT show. Daryl said he expects to see a quarter maybe for the first team offense, defense in that game against the Commanders, which is game number 2 in the preseason, since they play 4 at home. And that's Friday, August 11th, because they're not going to play the starters against the Eagles because they'll get their work in during that practice, 2-day practice session in Philly. So the starters and ones aren't going to play in that game, and then you never play them in the last game. I think Daryl was on to something when he said, look for the starters to get a quarter in, if not maybe a little more, in game number 2 against the Commanders, and then hope that gets them ready for the opener against the Cincinnati Bengals on September 10th. And of course, the big story there now in that one is, all right, will Joe Burrow, Jackpot Joey, be available for that game against the Browns, or does that calf injury linger and force him to miss some games early in the season, which, hey, that happens in the NFL. So if you can get that break, you take it.
Yeah, you never like to see it, of course. And, I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. I think he's a terrific young quarterback and one of the real bright parts of the future of the National Football League. Now, I know it happens to be in the Browns division against the hated Cincinnati Bengals that you play twice a year. So if you don't have to see Burrow, okay, then you take that and run. But you damn well better win the football game then. I know that. If Burrow is not able to go, then you damn well better put it in the win column if you're the Cleveland Browns. So, Ken, and I would, your conversation with Daryl Ryder, sure. If there is to be any playing time for the Browns ones, meaning their top unit offensively and defensively, for all the things that you laid out, it stands to reason that that's the game it's in then, is week number 2, and then you don't see them again until that opener, as you were just speaking about, the regular season.
Kellen Mond will start the Hall of Fame game for the Browns, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the 5th-round pick from this year, will back him up. That means Dobbs and Watson will not play for the Browns on Thursday night. If you're headed to Canton's Tom Benson Stadium, it'll be Zach Wilson starting for the Jets. Reg, I'm curious to see Jerome Ford. That's the guy. If there's one guy I'll be watching on Thursday night, whether I'm there in person or if I watch it on TV, I want to get a look at Jerome Ford, the running back, because I know what Nick Chubb can do. I don't need to see him. I don't know what any of the running backs can do behind him, Demetric Felton and Ford and whoever else is on the depth chart. That's the area that I'll be focusing on to see who's going to be Chubb's backup. They want it to be Ford. They said so far he's had a good camp, but we'll find out more on Thursday night, I think.
I'm with you on Ford. Absolutely. Need to find out. And the other one for me offensively is Cedric Tillman, the Browns draft choice, the wide receiver out of Auburn. They really like him. I think they believe that this year he can become a factor. And, it makes me wonder a little bit about David Bell. Quite honestly, I really believe right now, Kenny, that the Browns have Tillman ahead of Bell in that pecking order as far as wide receivers go. And that's fine. Now, Tillman's got the size and, he can take the top off of defense a little bit too. At least he did, as an Auburn War Eagle. So, and as we know, that's something that the Browns can definitely use because just, both Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, that's not really their calling cards as your top two receivers on this football team. So, I'm with you. I'm with you on Ford, and I add Cedric Tillman to that as well.
That's what it's a meaningless game unless you're battling to make the roster or you're battling to be a backup, right? And that's what we're going to see from both teams in this thing. And the big event this weekend, obviously, isn't the game itself, but the Jets have two guys going in. The Browns have one, the first one since they returned in 1999. Joe Thomas, selected third overall in the draft by Phil Savage, many years ago, has gotten the just due that a lot of people feel he deserves, being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Your thoughts on number 73, Joe Thomas, being part of this 2023 class?
A pillar of strength for the Cleveland Browns, Kenny, through a lot of just depressingly bad years. But the man, every day, he was discussing it earlier this week, he never missed a snap. He didn't miss any snaps on the practice field. He always felt like there was something that he could give even on those Browns' very poor teams. He knew he was with an organization that, hate to say it, but sure as hell wasn't about winning during many of those years. They didn't win. So for that, I've always just had a tremendous amount of respect for Joe Thomas, a consummate pro, and just a guy, Kenny, you really stop and think about it, and I know we don't enough, but, in any of the four major team sports, when you got guys who really, are not about themselves and are about doing everything within their power for the betterment and the good of the organization, those guys earn my respect. Joe Thomas was never able to play on a winner, but this is National Football League. Yep. And, you're talking about the one starter out of a 45-man roster. And of course, at the time too, he's going against, at the time, the strength of the in the division, Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, but Thomas never cheated him, Kenny. And for that, I give the man all kinds of admiration and very fitting and just that he's a guy that's going to go into the Hall of Fame and deserves every accolade that he's earned from those who cover the National Football League.
The class this year: Rondé Barber, Don Coryell, Chuck Howley, only player to be named MVP of a Super Bowl on a losing team. Ken Riley, I think when he retired, he was in the top 5 in interceptions with the Bengals and remains in the top 10 to this day. He'll be the second Bengal inducted as far as a player goes, joining Anthony Munoz in the Hall of Fame. The two Jets that are going in, Joe Klecko, part of that sack exchange, and Revis Island, Darrelle Revis, going in this year. Zach Thomas, linebacker for Jimmy Johnson's Miami Dolphins. DeMarcus Ware, Cowboys and Niners. Did he play for the Niners, DeMarcus? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he did,
he was
right?
A 49er.
Yeah, DeMarcus played. They got him in a Cowboys uniform, and of course Joe Thomas rounding out the 9-member class for the 2023 Hall of Fame ceremonies and everything. What other guy jumps out at you in this class, Reg, from what you remember?
Well, to me, it's Darrelle Revis. Again, you used the term Revis Island, and Kenny, I mean, that man just shut off half of the football field. It was very few and far between that any receivers were ever able to get the best of him. And I thought that, and I have to say that he's, to me, I'll be a top 5 corner in the I don't maybe want to say, in the history of the National Football League. He's up there, that's for sure, because he was that significant in what he did defensively. So for me, in addition to Thomas, it'd be Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, I'll correct myself. I knew he played for another team, DeMarcus Ware, with the Cowboys and the Broncos, not the 49ers.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Broncos were, he finished his career 2016 with the Broncos, Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 50, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and 3-time second-team All-Pro. So that's pretty doggone good for DeMarcus Ware. I remember Joe Klecko. I remember Joe, for whatever reason, sack exchange. Mark Gastineau got a lot of pub, right?
Yeah.
But Joe Klecko's the one in the Hall of Fame. Joe Klecko, Reg, I believe, and I don't have the notes in front of me, my bad. I believe he made the Pro Bowl as a nose tackle, a defensive tackle, and a defensive end. I think he's the only player to make the Pro Bowl from 3 different positions on the defensive line. And so I remember Klecko getting after it and being a pain in the ass to run the ball against and everything, and just doing the dirty work, right? And now he's getting rewarded for that. And then, Eric Coryell never won a Super Bowl, but changed the way the game was played, throwing the football with Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow and Charlie Joyner and, that group. So I remember Eric Coryell very well. From his days running things with the San Diego Chargers. Go Chargers, go, as Arnold used to say.
Pretty special class when you go through it like that. And I know that Joe Thomas looks at it that way as well. From everything I've heard that Joe Thomas has been speaking about. So it means something to him to go in with this type of class, with this type of distinguished players and a coach like Coryell. So it should be a lot of fun down on I-77 at the Hall of Fame in Canton coming up here very, very soon. And you're going to be down there, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, 2 weekends in a row, Reg. We had the inaugural class of the National High School Football Hall of Fame go in this past weekend at McKinley High School. All right. 23-member class. The inaugural class, 23 and 23. The likes of the late, great Paul Brown, Marion Motley, and Jim Brown in that class. The Manning family, Archie, Peyton, Eli, and Cooper. Again, this is for high school, right? They all dominated their high school careers.
Right.
And then you had Bernie Kosar and my guy, the Lowdown with Low Brown. Lomas Brown from Miami Springs High School in Florida. He came up, and great to catch up with a guy I did a radio show with for 1 year. On WKNR Mondays, we do the Lowdown with Low Brown, and he called me on Tuesday morning. He said, "Hey, Ro, I got called into the principal's office today." Chris Palmer's office, right?
Yes.
I got called into the principal's office today for telling you too much stuff.
How about that?
So every week he would do that, and of course, Stark County thrilled that Chris Spielman and Mike Doss.
Yes.
We're part of this class, and great to catch up with all of them. And Bernie looks great. I talked, a long time with Bernie.
I saw your picture with Bernie. You guys look good together on, I think it was on the Twitter and it was social media.
Yeah.
So that's great that you had a chance to spend a little time. But for as long as I've been here in Northeast Ohio, Kenny, and that's close to 50 years now. I mean, it's it is impressive as hell, the amount of football talent, be they coaches, front office, and of course players, that this area of the country here, around the cities of Cleveland and Massillon and Canton have provided to the Hall of Fames.
Yeah, Don Nealon, West Virginia, but coached at
Don
McKinley
Nealon.
High School.
Yeah.
He goes in. Tom McDaniels, both sons are in the NFL. Josh, of course, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Tom won a national state championship there at McKinley. So Tom gets in. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we had last weekend, we had the High School Football Hall of Fame on a national level. And now this weekend, the Pro Football Hall of Fame with that class of 2023 will be inducted on Saturday at noon. If you want to check out the festivities, here's the lineup for you. Thursday night, we know this. That's the game, Browns and Jets. Saturday morning, that's when the grand parade takes place, 8 to 10 a.m. And then following that, 12 to whenever, they'll have the induction of all the players. So the ceremony takes place, and then the Zach Brown Band going to tear it up at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. With a concert for legends on Saturday. So it should be a lot of fun. Hope to see a lot of you out there for that. All right, Reg, that's going to, let me check. Let's see. Did we jinx them in a positive way, or are they still being no-hit, Reg, before we get out? Let's see. We go check the box score for the Cleveland Guardians. They are in the bottom of the 7th inning, and they are still without a hit in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Lovely.
Let's see if Valdez still in the game. He's only thrown 71 pitches, so he's going to have a chance to maybe throw a no-no against the Guardians, and that would be, with the trades that were made, I guess the clubhouse was down yesterday, and after today, I'm sure they were down again today. Should have realized that and jumped on that with one of my betting apps and taken advantage of those guys being down in the dumps.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing we didn't say too much, so just quickly and winding it up, I was told today, Kenny, that the clubhouse was not a bunch of happy campers. I got it, but to which I'd say, fellas, you're the ones that are out there playing.
There you go.
You're the ones that put them, your baseball team, in this situation. So don't start, going off on management now because they traded one of your boys. Okay? Now, look. I'd have rather kept Aaron Savali too, Kenny, but I never liked that and nobody's name was placed to it, but you heard it too. The rumors have come out, they're not rumors, I'm sure it happened, that there's a little bit of unrest in the clubhouse now by the players because Savali was traded. Well, then if you had your butts playing better, it probably wouldn't have happened.
There you go. Chris Antonetti, per Zach Meisel on Twitter, on the free agent signings that were Mike Zunino released on June 16th and Josh Bell traded on August 1st. Here's what Antonetti said. Didn't work out. When you make those investments, you hope that they work out and have productive seasons. That's part of the risk of when you venture into free agency. Well, do a better job, Chris. That's on you. And that's on Cherney. That's on your scouts. You had $22 million to spend and you spent it on 2 bums. And, that's affected the way this team has played all season long. So, you're right about the players play better that are on the roster, but front office guys give them better players to be teammates with, and that should help things out as well there. So we'll see how that all goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
it does, right?
If you're going to be a positive and a winner in Major League Baseball, you got to have both of those sides of the equation going strong for you, and the Guardians haven't this year.
All right, Reg, we'll get together real soon here after the Browns play at least 1, maybe 2 preseason games. We'll start breaking it down, get into football season. Also, Phil Steele going to join us in the next coming weeks,
couple of weeks. Yeah, Phil will be here, and we'll really get into, his domain is college football. I encourage all of you to go get the Phil Steele 2023 college football preview magazine. He's the best in the business.
Yes, he is.
And he shows that year after year, the amount of work he puts into it because it's a passion for him. And we're looking forward to, in a couple of weeks from now, to having Phil on R&R with us again.
Yeah, thanks for the copy of that magazine, too.
You're been in my welcome, office. My man. Yeah.
It's been in my office, if you know what I mean, and I'm in there a lot, so I read it quite a bit in there.
It'll all be dog-eared down at the bottom of the pages.
Oh, we don't want to go into that, but thanks for that, Reg, and I look forward to talking to Phil in the coming weeks here on the R&R Podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network.